Garden City has a great history, and when we think of a garden, we think of things growing. And this area for southwest Kansas has had a lot of great growth, not just in agriculture and industry and numbers of people, but I think here today we'd like to talk about the growth of the Garden City First United Methodist Church. Garden City, that was established in 1878, by 1879, many of the settlers gathered together to form the Congregational Church of Garden City. A couple years later, 11 of those members broke off to form the First Methodist Episcopal Church. And they brought in Reverend Booth from Massachusetts to serve as their minister. They initially met in the home of Mary and Jesse Edwards. And later, as they were building their first church, they even met in the Red Line livery stable. But the first church was established as a building in 1884 and served the Methodists of Garden City quite well, but as a garden grows, so does the Methodist Church. The Garden City area had a real boom in the late 1800s, and by early 1900s, they were asking, well, where do we go now? We're outgrowing our church. So in 1911, the foundation was laid with a building committee to establish a new church. And in the same place there on 8th and Chestnut, the big red brick church that many of us come to know was built and established. And by 1915 was holding regular services. I find it very exciting and in awe that as we started with this new red brick church, we went through World War I, we went through the Depression, we went through the Dust Bowl era, as well as World War II. And yet, not only Garden City, but the Methodist Church of Garden City continued to flourish and grow. In 1951, Reverend Edwards put together a building committee to look at those needs of our church. That building committee that was put together, just to mention a few, would be Andrew Larson Sr., Lois Mayo, Leo Fife, Fern Greathouse, all of which have family members involved here today. They and the others did a phenomenal job looking to the future. Not only did they pick a new location at the corner of Kansas Avenue and Main, so anybody coming through Garden City came by that landmark of the Methodist Church of Garden City. Ground was broke in 1954, and the congregation made the parade from the red brick church down at 8th and Chestnut to its current location in 1957. The initial church consisted of the sanctuary and the educational wings. 4 years later, the church built the Fellowship Hall, which has been a major contribution not only to the congregation, but to the community, which it so well has served. There in the mid-90s, we added the elevator system as well as some other improvements. So the Vision Committee of 1951, I think, has to be given certainly a round of applause, because they definitely look to the future with a great vision, allowing for growth and service to their congregation. You know, I feel quite fortunate as a member of the Hans family in that our family has been served over a period of 6 generations within this church. And just as I mentioned, those have been on the committee many generations as well.
We have been attending the Methodist Church for about 5 years now.
We've been attending here for over 40 years.
I've been attending the church since middle school, so 6 years.
We moved here in 1958, so 56 years.
We've been attending the Methodist Church for 3 years.
I've been attending this church ever since I was married, which was 60 years ago.
Well, I've attended since I was a kid because I grew up in this church, and that's been 80-some years ago.
I've been a Methodist all my life. It's been my heritage, and it was just a natural thing for us to attend the Methodist Church.
The Methodist Church was recommended to us by community members who are very strongly involved in the church. And since then, we've been kind of buying into the church ourselves.
One of the big attractions for us in the church was the fact that there's a strong children's program, and in the youth program, and we could see that there were a lot of young people involved, and for us that kind of meant the church was alive and growing, and that was a really big attraction for us.
We think that a small group is really an important thing in a big church like ours, and we've been part of a Sunday school class for many years, and it's just like part of our extended family.
I think early when we started getting more involved, there was a lot of activities we did, and then our children got involved with activities, and that kept going, and now we have grandkids involved with the activities, so it's been great.
I started going there because I got a letter in the mail for confirmation my 6th grade summer. So I didn't really know what it was, just said okay. So the Methodist Church has taught me a lot about my faith and how to grow closer with a relationship with God and Jesus.
After we had children, we needed a place to take them for childcare, and the Methodist Church at that time offered childcare. And since we were bringing our children every day of the week, it made sense for us to attend regularly then as well on Sunday. And so having daycare available in this church was an instrumental part in keeping us as a family after the fact. Most of our Sunday school class started out as parents of children in the preschool program in this church, and 24 years later, that Sunday school class still remains. Having child care services, having things for kids in your church is one of the best evangelism tools we can use, because I think the parental attitude is, if it's good enough for my child, maybe there's something as well in it for me.
As far as I'm concerned, the biggest reason for attending this church is it answers the needs in my life and the problems that perhaps come about in normal lives. We find an answer here in this church.
I gained a lot of strength from attending church. My life, I feel, would be rather shallow and empty without church being part of my life and routine. The sermons, I gained so much knowledge and strength and inspiration from those. And in addition to that, it's the fellowship of being with my fellow church members.
I keep coming to the Methodist Church because I like the people there. You know, it doesn't really matter what you've done in your past, the church is there. We all have problems, and we're all just there to grow closer to God. And so I like that nobody really judges you. You just show up and you all got stuff to work on, and everybody's there for you.
I think the Methodist Church challenges us, which keeps us coming back. It helps us to grow. It helps us to be connected to the community. Coming from somewhere far away, moving here and not having a support system, it's been a support system for us.
We both look for opportunities to serve and to lead, and the amount of programs that the Methodist Church has, we felt that was a great way for us to give back to our community.
I have greeted at the West Door for several years, and I miss it when I'm not there. But I also look forward to visiting with people that come in that door. And I have learned that they look forward to visiting with me.
Every time we come to church, you always get a greeting. But yeah, there's lots of great people here.
It's nice even when you miss a Sunday, you see people out and about, and they always just want to ask if you're okay, and so that makes you feel special.
I think our congregation, the people in our congregation are diversified. They have some outstanding community leaders in our church, and we have business people in our church, and we have teachers in our church. We have people in our church that are involved in voluntary work and do a lot of things for the community, and so I think that's an outstanding characteristic.
I can remember a time when we had children's moments, there were 2 or 3 kids that went up front, and now there's an army of little kids that goes up there, which is so exciting. We certainly have the mature people in our church, but that demographic goes all the way down to little teeny people. The people here are a better representation, better cross-section of Garden City than they were even 40 years ago.
When we first came here, we were noted as the rich people's church, and people really took it very seriously. It was hats, white gloves, suits, and this morning Brian preached the sermon in his jeans and a casual shirt. And I thought how far we've come in being accepting of people who maybe don't have a dress-up wardrobe.
I feel that it is a much less intimidating place to someone who would be new. It feels less formal, more welcoming.
We felt very accepted by the congregation of the Methodist Church. We felt like, when we first started coming, we wouldn't always see the same people every time, but there was always somebody, saying welcome and asking us how we're doing.
I think that the staff is very easy to confide in, and you can tell that they love the Lord, and so their joy passes on to us.
The Methodist Church here has an awesome staff. Whether it's David leading, with his leadership style, firmly grounded in the Word as far as the pulpit ministry goes. Brian's doing a great job as the associate pastor. I think that was a brilliant move. We've got good people in the front office, not only paid staff, but also the other people that volunteer as well.
Our church structure, it's nice we're right at a busy intersection and use it as a landmark. I drive by there about every day and just marvel at the architecture.
I think the physical building of a church can make it appealing to new people if it's taken care of. I feel like our building has been well taken care of, but we're definitely missing that gathering place near the sanctuary.
As Jane and I travel, we attend churches in various towns, cities, communities, and that's one aspect that we've always seen, that we see a growing church, in our opinion, has a welcoming center for everybody to gather. As we have our church set up right now, we go from Sunday school class down to the sanctuary, and then you mingle in the sanctuary, basically before church. And we just feel like it's something needed in this church, and we're really excited about it.
Had somebody mention about everyone disappearing into Sunday school rooms one time, and if you were someone, how do you find people once all those doors shut? And so I think that the Welcome Center is a wonderful idea for the people who are already here and for people who might be new.
When we first moved, when we first started attending the Methodist Church, the structure was a little confusing, for sure. I got lost a lot. Katie seemed to figure it out a lot faster than I did, but
there was a lot of entrances and a lot of exits, and it's one big building, so it's hard to navigate.
Yeah, and I think, I think the church does a good job of trying to catch people as they come in and things like that, but at first I just always wanted to come in the back, because I knew, okay, this will just throw me right in the sanctuary.
We do have a very nice building. We have a big building, but we have a big building that was built in the 1960s to fit the ministry needs of the church in 1960. I think it's very important that the structure, the physical plant of the church keeps up with everything else. The technology has changed. The message never changes. The gospel message is immortal, but the building is not. And so I think it has served us well. It's structurally sound, and I think this is a great opportunity to make the good old building a great newer building for the future.
Being good stewards, that we always need to be looking for ways to be proactive and making sure the facilities are up to date. Because when you're proactive, it really does save you money. When you're reactive, then other things bigger problems occur.
Taking care of the church is kind of like how we take care of our homes. We know that it's going to take a little redoing and updating in order to make it a pleasing place, and we don't want anything less of the church.
I just think our church is a living, breathing body of Christ, and it's a place to be involved. It's a place to worship. It's a place to get educated. It's a place to come when you need someone to talk to. It's a place to come and give back. I felt like I've just figured out who I was as part of being part of this congregation and some of the ministries. And I found things that I really felt like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
It's just been amazing just how it's changed our lives and how it's changed my life as an individual. But, I'm now part of the evangelism and outreach group and stuff, and so that's been a change and looking at things differently for me.
When we were in college and first starting our family, we kind of got out of the habit of going to church. And I know for me, like watching Manuel be so involved, it inspires me to want to be more involved. On those days where I want to sleep in and not come to Sunday school, and he's saying, no, it's important for our family to be there.
We were very active in what was called the lay witness mission movement. And the first lay witness mission, Dean committed his life at that time and I recommitted mine. With that lay witness mission, we put Christ in the middle instead of in the buddy system over here on the side. At the wrap-up session, there were five couples who decided that they wanted to be a part of a Bible study prayer group. We met for years, and people left and other people came in, but it had a huge impact. And those people, some of them are still very dear to me and were a great comfort when Dean died, and they just picked up the slack and we just went on with one short.
I think that our church makes a difference for us because it's home.
I was diagnosed several months ago with cancer, and the church has been very supportive of me and as well as the pastors in that aspect, and
Lots and lots of prayers and cards and phone calls, texts.
Life can be fragile, and to get through those dark days, it's comforting to know that the church was always there for us.
The biggest struggle for us since moving here has been finding that niche, that those people who understand us and just accept us for who we are, and taking the time to get to know us.
What I have found in our spiritual life in this church is there have been several times where we've needed the love and the support of the people in this congregation, and they have never failed us. We have been shown the love of Christ through a lot of people, through good times and bad. The same people that have been supportive and loving to us in times of difficulty are also there to celebrate and to just enjoy the really good things in life as well.
The church is affecting me as I'm wanting to go into ministry. You know, they're kind of, David and Brian, the things they do on Sunday morning, kind of looking after how they share their message. Brian started when I was in middle school, you know, pushing camp. You need to go to camp. Camp's great. He always said, a week at camp, you learn more than you would a whole year in Sunday school. And until you finally go and realize that week of fellowship where all you're doing is there worshiping God, you don't have to worry about Facebook messages or school or anything like that. You realize that having a personal relationship with God is amazing.
Well, I really like the games there and the stuff we learn and the songs we sing. I like the teachers that are there and all the different things that we do and songs that we sing.
Growing up in the church affords you to have a number of parents, and it's taken some of them 40 years to get me to this point. Dick and Cliff in particular, when I was a young guy, maybe mid-teens, made an effort and spent some time with several of us that were that age. And I know, again, 40 years later, you know, I'm still an active part of this church, and I think it is largely because of the interaction of guys like that at that time that cared enough to spend some time with then a pretty rowdy 13, 14-year-old.
As we became active in the church, Pat and I started working with the junior high age kids, and we worked with them for a number of years. Anytime you work with kids, it's important that you lead the kind of life that you can pass on to those kids. But the irony of it is that those kids basically pass on some things to you as well.
Emmaus was something significant for us through the church, that we got connected to through the church. And I know it's really kind of helped us to reevaluate our faith. You know, we both grew up in the church, but really putting that emphasis on servanthood, and looking for places to serve, not waiting for people to come ask you.
We had a lay witness mission early on. That and disciple Bible study. Those were two things that I was involved in this church early on in my spiritual life that really lit a spark in me to want more, to be more involved, to do more than just show up on Sunday mornings.
We all have different strengths, we all have different gifts that we can share with the congregation, with the Lord. Some of that may be financially, some of that will be talents that we can share, inspiration in leading others, that can be in prayer groups, youth activities, but we're all there for the one goal of worshiping our Lord and growing our church.
Being bought into the church involves, you know, all phases of your life, you know, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you know, everything, and financially is a big part of that as well. You're showing your commitment, and you're showing that you're buying into the mission of the church, and the leadership along with that.
We know that it takes a certain amount of money to operate a church, and even more to do things that are proactive, to modernize it and update it and keep it welcoming. It takes some of those physical things, even though we know that you can't replace the people. It's the people that make the church, but those other things are kind of speak to new people as to the people that are here, and how much we care about what we can present to them and how we want them to be comfortable.
When we built the church that we're in right now, I can remember very well when we made a pledge to give so many dollars to help build that, and we were just getting started in our life, and we didn't have any money, and it was a pretty big thing for us to agree to set aside so much money a month to help pay for that church. If you don't ever support the church financially, you probably never feel a deep ownership to the church.
And without a sense of ownership, you don't have any loyalty, you don't have any responsibilities. And so that all meshes together and creates a support system that is what the church is based on. It's like we're in this together, and if we don't act on those things, then there may not be a church when we need it.
When I think back to the planning and dedication, sacrifice that those that built this church back in the 50s, what they did for us that many years ago, it's almost mind-boggling to know what a sacrifice that was. They didn't just sort of build a church, they built a church, and it has served us greatly, and I hope that we can do that same thing for future generations.
This is an exciting time in the life of this church, and I am blessed to serve as your pastor. We are the hands of Jesus Christ in this community. That's our stated purpose, and that is a goal around which all our ministry is built. We become the hands of Jesus as we develop lasting friendships with one another, and as we welcome new people into this community of faith, inviting them to hear the message of salvation and join us in ministry. We become the hands of Jesus Christ as we study the Bible together and pass our faith on to future generations. We become the hands of Jesus as we embody Christ in our community through acts of compassion and justice, seeking Him in all that we say and do. We have a long history of being the hands of Jesus in this community. This beautiful facility located on the corner of Kansas and Main has been our home for nearly 60 years, and it has served us well. The people who envisioned this building and who sacrificed to turn their dream into a reality have given us a tremendous gift. However, after 57 years, there are many areas in this building that need attention. Some essential systems are simply worn out. Our heating and cooling system needs to be replaced, and it needs to be replaced very soon. And we know that a new system will be very expensive. This is a critical need. We also have some vital, life-giving needs that will enable us to be more effective in our ministry both now and in the future. We've been blessed with a gift of more than $1 million to create a new entrance and welcome center on the north side of our building. In conjunction with this, we need to make our entire facility more welcoming, more friendly, more up-to-date for everyone who comes through our doors. Our bathrooms need to be updated. We need to improve the lighting and sound system in our sanctuary. We need to give our hallways and nursery a facelift. And we need to move the playground from the north side of the campus to the courtyard outside the nursery and preschool. All these things will make this building more inviting. It will help us reach out to new families so we can pass our faith on to future generations. It will take all of us working together to embrace this vision and make our dream a reality. We need your help. First, I'm asking each of you to pray for our ministry together and for this capital campaign. Secondly, I want you to prayerfully consider a 3-year pledge to the capital campaign above and beyond your regular giving to the general fund. Our general fund must be our first priority because it is essential to maintaining our current ministry. I know some of you are already giving sacrificially all you can to support the ministry of our church, and I thank you for your support, for your generosity. However, many of us, by rearranging some of our priorities, can give a second-mile gift to support the Capital Stewardship Campaign. Someone once said, "Pray as if it all depends on God, but work as if it all depends on you." Working and praying together, we can make our dreams come true. Working and praying together, we can prepare this facility to meet our ministry needs for years to come. Working and praying together, we will pass on our faith to future generations.
God does wonderful things. This was printed a long time ago, and it was in our adult Bible study last Sunday. And I'm just going to read it. It said, someone saw this old man planting a carob tree. This person asked the old man when the tree would bear fruit. After 70 years, the old man said. What? The other man exclaimed. Do you expect to live 70 years and eat the fruit of your labor? The old man answered, I didn't find the world desolate when I entered it, as my ancestors planted for me before I was born, so I plant for those who will come after me.